Hello and welcome to the fourth edition of Chugging the World Cup, aka the World Cup according to Connor and Ethan. I'm
Jeff.
Connor. I'm here with the Ecuadorian average Ethan, and we're also joined by the Indian legend Jeff. How are you guys doing?
Ecuadorian average? Bitch, you wasn't with me shooting in the gym.
I am the Indian starlet, though. That's
Connor,
the truth.
you're just
That's
a straight
the truth right
bitch.
there.
How many beers deep are we right now?
17.
2 each, I believe, is the correct answer, and we're about to crack another one because guess which group we're previewing right now? Group G, baby, and you know who's in Group G?
Germany.
USA.
USA.
USA. USA.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
So we're
It's
here
late.
to preview USA. We got a nice Samuel Adams, Boston Lager.
we are feeling well patriotic right now, drinking our Sam Adams. If Ethan knows how to pop that cap off,
I just did.
and we're going to talk about the most anticipated group, of course, by Team USA fans. But what we're going to do is talk about Team USA first. Let's be real. We need to talk about Team USA first.
We need to talk about Team USA.
All right. First of all, let's talk about this. In the news today, we saw Landon Donovan is going to be an ESPN analyst. Will he spend the entire time taking shits on Jurgen Klinsmann?
No, he won't. I think that Donovan respects Klinsmann. Obviously, I'm not Donovan. From what I've just seen of him, he seems to respect Klinsmann. He said before the World Cup announcements were made that he was not a sure thing to make the team. I don't know if he was just saying that or if he actually meant it. But he's also, hired by ESPN. He's a professional. He will do a good job of analyzing the USA games, the other games they have him analyzing. I don't think he's going to spend the entire time talking about himself or Klinsmann. Donovan's a class act. He's respect for the game.
Donovan's too classy to say anything about Klinsmann. He's not going to talk shit about him. But then, if he does, I don't blame him. I mean, if he looks at the current roster, he's not going to say that Brad Davis or Julian Green is better than him. And neither would I. Donovan's by far better than him. And even Tim Howard said that if Donovan was on the field, he's US's top 2 or 3 attacking options. So if your goalkeeper is saying that, obviously the rest of the players are thinking that also.
Jeff, you are a more established player than Julian Green.
Yes, LMU Club Soccer.
LMU Club Soccer could beat Julian Green.
No, it couldn't.
Julian
maybe
Green
you
by
couldn't,
himself?
All right.
He looks a little lost on the field that time.
He does look a
And
little...
he-
I
US
think
uniform?
Julian's going to have a very good career, but right now he's 19. He's younger than all three of us.
There's too much pressure on him. It happens all the time in U.S. sports.
Will Donovan be a better announcer than Alexi Lawless?
I actually like Alexi Lawless.
You do?
He
Yeah,
represents,
I
he
don't
represents
mind.
the U.S. culture.
I don't mind Alexi. I have no idea how Donovan's going to be as an announcer. Obviously, I just know him as a player. I don't know. All right, let's stop talking about the announcers. I'm going to be watching most of these games either in Portuguese or Spanish.
Yeah,
Because
in
I
a
like
bar.
watching
In a
watching
bar.
the games on Univision. To be honest with you, no offense to ESPN, but I prefer my Univision and one in Brazil, Portuguese, because that's what they fuck with down there.
Oh, see, I find the American broadcasts to be turning into high theater at this point. And I'm interested to see how Donovan's going to do. He's a pretty good interview. And I think he's going to have the composure to be pretty solid at the World Cup. The Lawless-Ballack duel that happened at Euro 2012 was sometimes better than whatever was going on the field. That was great. They went at it. I don't think Donovan has that confrontational style, but I would really love to see him be the sideline reporter who interviews Jurgen Klinsmann.
That I don't think that's gonna happen. I feel like someone would put a stop to that before it happened. That would just be way too awkward.
But how much would you pay to see that?
Yeah, that would be fucking hilarious.
I would pay to see that. But I'm still low-key hoping that one of the U.S. players like Brad Davis or someone who else isn't gonna play. I would say Timmy Chandler. One of them gets injured, and I'm still hoping.
Gets injured in training,
I'm
and then
still
Donovan
hoping that
gets called up.
I'm still hoping that Donovan gets called up because Jurgen said if anyone gets injured, Landon would be the first person he calls.
Hey, Landon's going to be in Brazil.
I mean, I would like to see that too, but you know what? What's done is done. Klinsmann obviously doesn't want him there, so even if he did call Donovan up, Donovan's just going to be watching from the bench.
Yeah. Well,
All right, I think we can all agree that not including Donovan in the roster was a mistake. We all want Donovan to be there. We're not the only ones. I'm going to say that 98% of United States soccer fans want Donovan to be there.
I'd say 99.
All right, maybe even more than 98. Let's go with 99.
is Jurgen one whole percentage? Because I think he's the only one.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. You know what? Jurgen has his reasons. I'll give him that. We'll see how this group does. In my opinion, I believe we touched on this a few podcasts ago, that this team is gearing up for 2018. Klinsmann knows they're in a tough group. It's not a secret that the U.S. probably isn't going to make it out of this group.
Yeah, I mean,
Shit.
here's the thing. The U.S. can make it out of this group.
They can.
This is not a case of Honduras being buried underneath Switzerland, France, and Ecuador. And it's not, Australia either. Sorry to keep hating on Australia. I really want them to continue in the tournament. But, the fact that, and this is something that really bothers me, Klinsmann continues to repeat to the media that it's unrealistic to say that Team USA is going to win the World Cup.
It is unrealistic to say that.
It is unrealistic,
I know,
but
you don't say that. You never say that.
Okay,
First of
as an
all-
American, you don't say
first
that,
of
but
all-
Klinsmann
first of all,
in Europe they say more, I guess, brash comments like that. That's what are we going to
here's
say?
the
Connor?
thing.
He did say the thing about Kobe Bryant.
They are pessimistic sometimes in Europe, yes. And we'll get to the thing about Kobe Bryant. First of all, you don't say it as an American. You don't ever have that attitude. We don't have that attitude about anything. This country wouldn't exist if the Founding Fathers had that attitude. Hell no, we weren't going to win the Revolutionary War, and then we did. Second of all, more importantly, nobody's saying that fucking Team USA is going to win the World Cup. I haven't heard a single person say that. Who is saying that? Who are you responding to, Klinsmann? Nobody's saying that. This is unnecessary pessimism surrounding the team. Team USA is not the kind of squad that's going to really be amped up by comments like that. That's the European style. Managers say that their team isn't going to do something. The team goes out and proves it. You know what? Americans can be sensitive sometimes. We like to be told that we can do things. Look at Josie Altidore. He scored 2 goals against Nigeria just last week. He played 3 games in friendlies for the Team USA. You know how many he had scored before then in 2014?
0.
Donut.
0 goals. He scored once this season for Sunderland.
Yeah, he's been on a bit of a dry spell. That's kind of an understatement.
This is a player who thrives on confidence. And he's arguably not the best, but maybe the most important player for Team USA. His success can push
Debatable.
Team USA to a higher level because he's the wild card. He's the forward, first of all. He's the one who scores the goals. And we don't know what we're going to get out of him. He's not better than Michael Bradley. He's not better than Tim Howard or Clint Dempsey or other players on Team USA. But he can make just as big an impact as those guys if he's on his game. How is saying something like, it's unrealistic to say we can win the World Cup, going to help a player like that do well in the World Cup?
Connor, I think you're reading too much into this. The U.S. team knows where they stand. Yeah, you want a positive vibe, I guess, in the locker room, but the U.S. knows where they stand, whether it's Josie Altidore, whether it's Tim Howard, Jurgen Klinsmann. It's not a secret. Jurgen Klinsmann's just saying what everyone else already knew.
But you
Yes,
don't go
you want-
into a tournament saying that.
You don't go in. It would be bad for Klinsmann. Now, if Klinsmann were to say, we're not going to make it out of the group, I'd have some serious issues with that. Or if he says we're not going to make it even to the quarterfinals, if he says we're not going to make it to the semifinals, for him to say we're not going to win the World Cup, that I don't have as much as an issue with. Just
I have never heard a coach say that to a team.
now, if Klinsmann were to say we're not going to win the next World Cup, then you're basically saying that the next 4 years are useless. That I'd have a little more of an issue with. Have I ever heard a coach say that? No, I haven't. So it is. I
you
do
don't
think it's a
say
little
that
bit
to a
odd.
team.
I do think it's a little bit odd, but I just don't think that. I think that there's more important things going on than
It's not helpful.
than to worry about this.
Well, it's not that I'm not the one bringing it up. Klinsmann just said it again today for the second time.
Whatever. Is it helpful? No. Does it matter? I don't think.
Of course it
does.
matters.
I don't think it matters.
It's a negative psychological effect on the team, in my opinion. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on this?
I wasn't very happy when I saw the article. I mean, he could say it after the World Cup. It wasn't realistic. But you don't say that going into the World Cup. Especially when the players started talking about it because they were questioned by the reporters constantly about what they thought about Klinsmann's comments. And they said that obviously it's their goal to get out of the group stage, but the sky's the limit from there. And it's really optimistic how they talk. And if Klinsmann just he answered it open-ended and just said something similar, it would have been a lot better. But he was just too direct, and it was just against the American way, and it made me pissed off. And then I just questioned what's he planning on doing at the World Cup if he's not planning on winning it.
I think it is against the American way, but Klinsmann, although he is the American head coach, he's not an American. And I don't have an issue with that. I'm just saying that, he's not an American. So for him to say this, although we look at it poorly, he comes from a place where saying a comment like this wouldn't be considered as, a big deal. So it is what it is. What do you think about that, Connor?
Well, it is the European style. You look at really the non-American style. You look all over the place. Players are calling other teams the favorites. They're saying these are the guys who are going to win. And I think it's to alleviate pressure, and it's to appear humble as well. But it's not like you're seeing Tim Duncan say that the Heat are the favorites in the finals. He said, we're going to do it now. And Tim Duncan is perhaps one of the most modest superstars in all of American sports. That's just what we do. Like, I think we're big believers in the fact that optimism can only help. The pessimism, as Jeff said, creates an unnecessary distraction. It creates a negative feel around the team. And you don't really want your team to believe that they can't win, do you?
No, you certainly don't. But at the same time, the U.S. knows what the task is ahead. They're very focused on this group. At least I sure as hell hope they are. I don't think that the U.S. is even focused on the big picture as much as the group. This definitely is a bit of a distraction. It won't help. But all I got to do is move on. And you know what? I think that we should also move on. Let's talk about Ghana.
We will. I have one last point.
All right.
Where's the breaking point in that? If Team USA's goal is to get out of the group stage, but they can't win, at what point do they say, well, okay, this is the point where we can't move on?
I would say the quarterfinals. Because if they do get out of the group stage, they'll be in second place behind Germany. And I'm assuming Belgium's winning the group with 9 or 7 points out of their group. And the USA will play Belgium. And I don't think... ideally, I would hope that the USA beats Belgium, but Belgium's just too much talent on paper for the US to handle.
Yeah. Now, we can say this because we're not involved with the team. Team USA is probably not going to win the World Cup.
And yes, the captain probably not. The best the U.S. has ever done is the quarterfinals in 2002. And to match that I believe that would be a great success. Excellent, successful World Cup. And in the quarterfinals, they would probably play Argentina, who is, soccer powerhouse playing in South America. That would be an extremely challenging game.
And they're going to have to get through the light horse first in order to do that, because if they qualify, they're going to play the NS, a.k.a. the New Spain, Belgium. If you weren't listening to the last podcast, go back and listen, actually. Probably around the 40-minute mark when I start talking about Belgium, and that's really good stuff. But what do we have to say about the U.S.'s first opponent? Because we're going to do this one through an American perspective. We're going to talk about the other teams. But we're Americans. We got to talk about it through the American perspective. First opponent, Ghana. Weakest opponent in the group, yes or no?
No. It's hard to say. Maybe you could say they're the weakest opponent in the group, but at the same time, they've eliminated the U.S. from the last 2 World Cups. The U.S. is 0-2 against Ghana. In 2010, the U.S. I thought they could have won that game. Ghana, they did deserve to win it. But I think mentally, the U.S. knows they've lost Ghana in the last 2 World Cups. The U.S. knows Ghana's eliminated them from the last 2 World Cups. So it's a big mental test. Not only is Ghana a good team on the field, but the U.S. also knows that Ghana is basically their... What's the word I'm looking for? The U.S. knows that Ghana is just eliminated them from the last 2 World Cups.
They have the psychological...
They're the bane of their existence, basically.
They have the psychological advantage.
Exactly. A huge psychological advantage. They're in their heads. Even if that wasn't their original intention, they're just going out there to win games. By doing so, they're in their heads. The U.S. doesn't want 2014 to be 2010. The U.S. doesn't want 2014 to be 2006. It's as simple as that.
I'd say the USA-Ghana game, most important game for the U.S. The coaches and players, even and Klinsmann, said that the Ghana game is the World Cup final for the U.S. team. He said if USA doesn't come out with points out of the game, they're done with the group stage. So it's really nervous for me as an American fan. Because if they lose that one game, the whole World Cup is ruined for me.
I agree, Jeff.
And we already know that Team USA is not going to win the World Cup, so if that's the final, then they're going to lose.
Obviously, you don't want to lose the first game. It doesn't matter who you're playing, whether or not it's a team that's eliminated for you from the last 2 World Cups. But especially in a group of death where you're almost guaranteed a loss against Germany, you really can't be losing many other points. And you want to start out on the right note. And the U.S. has put a lot of preparation into the Ghana game. When the United States team flew down to Brazil, they didn't even come with Klinsmann because he stayed in Miami to watch Ghana play South Korea. That's how much emphasis the U.S. is putting into this Ghana game, that their head coach didn't even travel with the team to Brazil. This is a huge game. Well, of course it's a huge game. Every game in the World Cup is a huge game. But this game sets the tone for everything.
Yeah, and this is an especially tough group for Team USA. There are no nights off in this group. There's absolutely nobody you can slack off against. And Team USA is coming in really prepared for Ghana. I think Klinsmann sees this as the most winnable game. And here's one instance where not having a lot of returning players, a lot of experience is actually going to help. Because 17 players on Team USA's roster have never played against Ghana. Now, we can look at that the other way and say 6 guys is not a whole lot of returning World Cup experience. But having 17 that don't have that, wound from the past 2 World Cups.
Yeah, but the court, look, Michael Bradley lost to Ghana. Clint Dempsey lost to Ghana. Tim Howard lost to Ghana. Who am I forgetting?
Josie Altidore.
Josie Altidore lost to Ghana.
Oh, and these are really key players.
Exactly.
For Team USA,
They're really key players, which is why they're more important than Graham Zusi. They're more important than Driscoll. They're more important than Omar Gonzalez, other players who will be starting. And of course, I'm not saying that the role isn't important. I'm just saying that Bradley, Dempsey, and Altidore and Howard, I mean, their psychological, damage from the loss to Ghana has a more of a negative impact than the, neutral effect that Zusi, Gonzalez, and Chandler would have.
But at the same time, you have half a starting lineup on the field who have never played against Ghana.
And that's good. That to be a plus. That's a positive in my opinion.
That's a breath of fresh air for the team, especially because the entire defensive line has never played against Ghana. And that's a big thing because those are really the players, those and the goalkeeper are really the ones who can get haunted by mistakes. Those are the players who mistakes will really ruin those in forwards. But it's not like Josie missed a bunch of chances against Ghana. It's that the defense got skinned a couple of times, gave up a penalty kick.
Josie actually did miss a shot.
If I remember correctly, there was a very crucial play in the round of 16 game when the U.S. was playing Ghana where I think it was Maurice Adu, who will not be playing in this World Cup, he just really screwed up. He lost the ball in his own half, and then Ghana just went right on and scored. That was in the first half, and he's not in this World Cup.
That was Benny Feilhaber, I think.
Was that Benny Feilhaber?
Yeah.
Either way, it was a midfielder who I remember at the time I was surprised was starting, and now he's not even on the team. Maybe it was Benny Feilhaber, maybe it was Maurice Adu. Either way, they're not there.
Well, we're going to see at least if... What's that? If qualifiers are any indication, it looks like we're going to see Howard in goal. Probably either Timmy Chandler or DeMarcus Beasley at left back. Matt Besler and what looks like probably Jeff Cameron, actually, as the starting center backs. A surprise for me there. And Fabian Johnson at right back. Then in the midfield, we'll have Bradley and Jermaine Jones as holding mids, or even maybe Kyle Beckerman as a holding mid with Bradley farther forward. Out wide, it looks like it's going to be Zusi on one side. Who's the other starting one? Brad Davis?
It was Bedoya.
Bedoya is the other starting
Alejandro
winger.
Bedoya.
And then Dempsey as the attacking midfielder, kind of in the hole, with Josie all the way up top. Now that defense, Omar Gonzalez is probably not starting.
I like Jeff Cameron. I like what he brings. Omar Gonzalez in qualifying, he was too slow. And if he was too slow in CONCACAF, he definitely wasn't going to be able to keep up with the pace of the European talent.
What about this? Omar Gonzalez is definitely the best communicator, though, on the team. You watch him, he's the guy talking to everybody else, and that's something you really need out of a defender. Also, he's the best physical presence. I like Jeff Cameron. He's a good player. He plays well for Stoke, and he plays in the Premier League. He's the only guy on the field, at least, who's getting regular Premier League action for Team USA, but can't you find room for both of those two in the defense?
I feel like Matt Besler, he controls the defense. He's the main man in the center back. And then Omar Gonzalez, he always makes 1 or 2 mental mistakes every game. And that's a key thing at the World Cup. Because in CONCACAF, the opposing team, they may not have taken advantage of it. But in the World Cup, that 1 or 2 silly mistakes is just going to turn into a goal. And so if you have Jeff Cameron, and I haven't seen him make a mental mistake, and he might not be as physical or as good as the communicator, but at least he won't make mistakes that'll turn into goals for the opposing team. So that's why I like Jeff Cameron pairing up in Matt
Just
Besler.
for the record, Tim Howard controls that defense. He has the most Premier League experience. He's the most veteran player on the team. He controls that defense. But obviously, as far as the defenders go, yeah, you're looking at Besler or Cameron or Gonzalez, whoever's at center back.
Can you tell that Ethan played goalkeeper?
Well, yes, I did a little bit.
What do you think about the Gonzalez-Cameron thing, Ethan? Because it is, it's a pretty big deal. Like,
Yes, it
it's
is. And I do agree that Gonzalez, although sometimes I do like him, there's have been times I've seen him and I liked him, but he definitely is mistake prone. And in a group of death, mistake prone means going home early. If the U.S. wants to advance from this group, they're going to have to play nearly flawless. And that goes for all 11 players on the field. Gonzalez, although he's not a bad option, at the same time, I don't consider Gonzalez to be someone that you can really rely on. You need a strong anchor in that center back, someone who will bail you out on a 2-on-1 situation, someone that the goalkeeper trusts. And I don't know the relationship between Howard and any of those defenders, but you don't want someone who's a pushover. You don't want someone that's going to be making mistakes. And I don't know if Gonzalez is that guy.
Now, see, to me, the most important thing, and I grew up playing as a center back, to me the most important thing in the defense is continuity and chemistry. You've got Gonzalez and Besler who played so many games together. They have been the duo for the majority of qualifying. Jeff Cameron's a good player, but he doesn't have the same relationship with Besler as Gonzalez does. And what you might see is goals that happen against the USA that don't appear initially to be anybody's fault. But what happens is, with two center backs who aren't very familiar with each other, you see them start getting dragged out of position a little bit. They are not totally sure where each other are. Cameron and Besler, if I'm correct, have only played 3 games together as starters. You're not going to see the same symbiosis in those two as you would with Gonzalez and Besler. Now, what I would suggest, and this isn't going to happen, I think Jeff Cameron should play at right back, where he does for Stoke, with Fabian Johnson at left back. I don't think Tim Chandler or DeMarcus Beasley are either as good of defenders as Jeff Cameron, and I think Johnson can play on the left side.
The thing with Johnson playing on the left side, on one hand, I do like that, but Johnson, he can go up and attack. He scored a great goal the other day against Turkey.
I saw that.
With him going, but the thing, if he plays on the left back, if he plays on the left side, when you're playing against Portugal, you do not want him going up to attack. When
No,
you
he's guarding Nani in that situation.
I would much rather have Johnson than Cameron guarding Ronaldo.
I wouldn't want.
Yeah?
Yeah. Would you rather have Johnson guarding Ronaldo than Cameron?
Yeah, I would much rather have Johnson.
Really? I think with Johnson, I want him to go up and attack a little bit. If someone's guarding Ronaldo, I do not want him to go up and attack.
I
want him to sit back, park the bus
Cameron
on
definitely
Ronaldo.
doesn't have the pace to keep up with Ronaldo.
Yeah, but I think he's got
fast.
to know how he plays right back for Stoke City in the Premier League.
He can be as good as he wants, but if you're not fast enough to keep up with Ronaldo.
Stoke City in the Premier League. What do they finish? 15th this year?
I think about 11th.
11th. Real Madrid best team in Europe, and Ronaldo best player in Europe.
I mean, if we saw anything from the friendlies, Fabian Johnson has started at right back for every game, and then Jeff Cameron and Matt Besler, and then DeMarcus Beasley at left back,
DeMarcus Beasley has filled in for left back occasionally,
which I prefer much better than Timmy Chandler.
To be honest, there's no perfect match for left back in my opinion, especially against Portugal. But that could be said for literally any team in the World Cup. So
Yeah, it's not like Fabian Johnson is playing in like some much greater league than
No.
Cameron at the Premier League.
Well, he's in the Bundesliga. Yes, I think
But he's playing as an outside mid there.
he is playing as outside mid there, and I wouldn't mind to see Klinsmann put him as an outside mid. I don't know why he doesn't. I wouldn't mind to see him opposite to Zusi, but let Klinsmann do whatever he wants to do.
I like Fabian Johnson's attacking. He's very good going
I
forward.
agree. He is very good going forward, which is why I don't know how I feel about him playing defense. I do like defender outside backs going forward occasionally. Like I love it when Sergio Ramos goes forward for Spain, but just based on the fact that we're playing such high quality opponents, I don't know if it would really be the best idea for the United States to be attacking from the outside backs. What do you think?
Exactly. I like Fabian Johnson. I would like him going up against Ghana and pushing up and trying to score and connect with Michael Bradley again. But if you're facing up Ronaldo, you're not going to leave that space open for Ronaldo and have Jeff Cameron cover him one-on-one. You'd much rather have DeMarcus Beasley go up when he's guarding Nani, if Nani starts on the right-hand side. And you'd rather have that side exploited instead of Ronaldo's side.
But we are going to see Johnson going forward from right back, I think.
I doubt it. Will.
I doubt it during the
see-
Portugal game.
Maybe not during the Portugal game, but during the Ghana game.
We
Maybe
see
if we're
with-
down 1-0 in like the 70th, 90th, 80th minute. What do you think?
Now with Barcelona, we see Dani Alves refusing to stay back when they're playing against Real Madrid. He's guarding Ronaldo. But he pushes forward, and their way of defending him is by trying to make him go back. Ronaldo doesn't like tracking back.
Ronaldo does not like tracking back.
So
And he
basically-
doesn't track back very well.
He leaves a wide open player. But what we're really going to see is a series of 3-on-2s against Portugal where Almeida stays forward and Ronaldo stays forward. And then it's going to be Cameron's responsibility anyway to slide over and guard him.
And that's the issue. I mean, at Barcelona, that would be
Pulio.
Gerard Piqué
Or Pulio. Or
Yeah.
Mascherano.
or one of those guys. Then no knock on Jeff Cameron, but he can't D up like those guys can. So if I would have Fabian Johnson just stick on Ronaldo all game,
Just shadow him.
just shadow him,
Some-
just man mark him.
But then that takes Fabian Johnson, his offensive ability. They're basically getting completely rid of his offensive ability.
And that's the whole
And that's
point
a
of playing
valuable
him at
asset of
left
him.
back.
That's a valuable asset for Fabian Johnson.
It's
His
a valuable
offensive
asset, but if you give Ronaldo one chance, he'll take it.
Now,
And
if you watch,
he'll punish.
If you watch Johnson play, he doesn't have quite the touch to play as a midfielder in international soccer, but he's so athletic, and he's so smart with his movement that he's great as an outside back going forward because he's got a little more space. He can pick up his speed and he can attack to the teeth of the defense. Having him not go forward kind of takes away the whole purpose of having him back there. He's not a natural defender. He's not bad at it, definitely, but he's not the best either.
I agree.
I think you have to have him go forward. And Ronaldo is there, but you can't be so scared off by him that you don't have Johnson attack at least a couple times up the line.
Famous last words that came back to haunt you, Connor. Watch
Very,
Ronaldo.
yes.
Watch Ronaldo just watch Klinsmann do that exact same thing, and Ronaldo just burn
Oh,
Johnson
yeah.
when he goes.
I mean, there's a big chance that does happen, obviously.
There is. Personally, I don't want Ronaldo to be on the same side as Johnson.
Let's just.
Or what side? Who would you? If you could pick,
Who would I want
outside back would you want?
Can we just not have Ronaldo be on Portugal or?
Well, where's that Ghanaian witch doctor?
Yeah, where is that witch doctor? Can he curse Ronaldo's knee again? Because it sounds like Team USA is going to need it.
All right, let's stop talking about Ronaldo. Basically, he's, I don't want to say unstoppable, but hell and high water will be needed to stop Ronaldo. And
But I do think our defense is solid. We have a solid defense.
you know what? We'll find out.
I'd say it's better than the last World Cup.
The best part of Team USA, though, is definitely the midfield.
No, the goalkeeping.
That's
On the field.
That's how it is every World Cup, though, for the U.S.
No, I agree. The midfield, even though Donovan won't be there, Bradley's turning out to be a very good midfielder. I'm disappointed that he moved to the MLS. I think he could have been very valuable for Roma. He would have played in the Champions League next year had he stayed in Italy. But
Bradley's the best player on the team.
you think so?
I think so.
Yes.
Better than Dempsey?
Yes. It's not even close.
Really?
Look at Bradley's movement.
I
His
feel like
ability
the
to run the ball.
last couple of games I've watched, Bradley has the ball in every goal situation. He's the one creating the ball. He makes a pass. He makes the pass. He's connecting with other players, and Dempsey finishes. I'll give him that.
Dempsey's a
But
goal scorer.
he doesn't create his own goals.
Okay, all right.
Bradley's got it all, to me. He's Arturo Vidal light. He wins the ball. He reads the game well. He's got good passing range. He makes smart passes. He finds open space. He can score goals every now and then. I mean, he popped up in scored one for Team USA in the last World Cup. I think Bradley has been underrated for a long time just because his dad was the coach. People said that's the only reason he was on the team. The guy's been class for a long time.
I definitely agree that Bradley is the best passer on this team. He is an excellent passer, excellent distributor. He reminds me, I don't want to say he reminds me of Xavi, but his style of play is similar to Xavi. Of course, he's not as good, but he's excellent player.
He's the fulcrum on both sides of the ball.
He can tackle a lot better than Xavi.
Yeah, tackles a lot better than Xavi. He's the centerpiece for both the offense and the defense of this team. We know Bradley's a rock. How about Jermaine Jones? He's pretty off and on.
I think I like him a lot. I like it, especially when he was paired up with Kyle Beckerman in the Nigeria friendly, because that gave Bradley the freedom to roam and push up into the final third. Because we usually see Bradley just stay in the midfield and supply that ball and not push up because he had to play that defensive mid position.
Ethan, what about the disciplinary issues with
Yes,
Jones?
I was just about to bring that up. Jeremiah Jones has some serious disciplinary issues, and the last thing you want to see is him getting a red card or even a red card against any of these three teams, or even an early yellow card in any time in the first 30 minutes of a game, where then he's going to have to be careful how he tackled for the rest of the game, or how Klinsmann's going to have to consider taking him out of the game earlier than he'd like to. The disciplinary issues with Jeremiah Jones is a serious liability that he's really going to have to just behave himself, frankly, if the U.S. want to have any chance beating any three of these teams.
And it's tough because he needs his aggression to be the full player.
But he also needs to just harness it in a positive way.
He is so good defensively when he has the freedom to wonder if he'll get a yellow card. But when you're up against a yellow card already, you can't wonder that anymore. You have to be sure. Jones is a really strong tackler, and when he's playing simple passes and not playing outside of his game, he's excellent on the offensive side of the ball as well. He has a tendency sometimes to drift and try and play passes he can't make, and that's when he gets frustrating. But if Jones is on, Team USA is a totally different team. They can beat a lot of players. And it's tough to determine, it's tough to see really how the rest of this midfield formation is going to come out. We might see Kyle Beckerman in another holding spot, and that was a good formation, Jeff. I totally agree with you on that. That was great. And when in that scenario, Dempsey's out wide, but we might see Dempsey in that attacking spot. What's the best position for Dempsey? He's playing as an attacking player for the Sounders and scoring an awful lot of goals for the league-leading MLS side. But
all right, so as you were saying, with Dempsey,
but he's played historically on Team USA out wide. Where's the best spot for him?
I like him right behind Altidore or out wide, but preferably behind Altidore. But if the U.S. plays the 4-2-3-1 like they did in the friendly against Nigeria, he'd be out wide. But he pushed up a lot, which made Jermaine Jones basically an outside mid. And they were playing basically a 4-4-2 on defense, with Dempsey pushing up as a forward.
I agree, Jeff. I like Dempsey right behind Altidore. Dempsey's definitely not a striker, but at the same time, he's much more offensive. You don't want him too far back, hanging out with Bradley back there, because he's not as good as a distributor. He's someone you want to get the ball to, not someone who wants to, distribute the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with that, and I think Dempsey's at his best when he's dribbling and looking for a little bit of space, because it's hard to stop the guy. His motor is just unbelievable. He'll fight through so much, like so many tackles, and really whatever you can throw at him, he'll go through it.
Dempsey will always give you solid 90 minutes. No question about it.
Yeah, always.
88th minute, he'll be running just as hard as in the second minute.
Except this last stint at Fulham. That was pretty embarrassing. Sorry, Dempsey. I saw you play there, though. Anyway, I'm not too concerned about the wide players. I think they're kind of average, you know.
It's the weak spot of the U.S.
I actually kind of like Graham Zusi. There's something about him. I mean, he's not great, but I'm confident in Graham Zusi.
He's a blue collar type of player.
He is a blue collar type of player.
He works hard.
He does.
I like Mix Diskerud. I think Mix is the most creative player on this USA team, at least in the short minutes that I've seen him play. You know, he's got a good touch and he's got a clever mind. He looks like he can create some good things. But I would agree with you, Jeff. It's probably the weak spot on the team.
He's a very young player. I think he's only 22 or 23 years old.
Something along those lines.
A lot of potential for him.
I feel like that he could be a super sub at the World Cup.
Sub?
I know he won't start, but him and Aaron Johansson, I feel like those two should sub in every game. I don't know, like 20 to 25 minutes every game probably.
In 4
Johansson
years
needs a lot of time.
Johansson definitely does, especially with Altidore struggles.
He is good.
The coach keeps praising Altidore, but there's just a time where you have to give Johansson the opportunity.
Johansson's big. He's mobile. He can score from in and outside. He wins those headers. He's got good feet. You know, he's not the powerhouse that Altidore is. And when Altidore's on, there's really no way of stopping him. We can't say the same about Johansson necessarily, but Johansson's consistent. He's a good player.
He is.
Come Russia 2018, those two are going to be very key players for the United States.
How many goals does Altidore need to score for Team USA to advance?
Probably 2, maybe 3.
I would say 2. I don't see him making.
I don't see him scoring
every
every game. I'm gonna say probably 2 against Ghana and Portugal.
So I think we need a big tournament from Altidore.
You think so?
I think
we need a bigger tournament from Dempsey. I mean, he's the captain.
I would say
I think we're gonna need a big tournament from everyone if we want to make it out of this group.
that's true.
That is a good point.
And I suppose now's probably as good a time as any. We've been talking about Team USA for 36 minutes almost. Let's turn our attention to their opponents. Round 1, I mean, I guess it's all round 1. First game is against Ghana, who have some good attackers, some talented midfielders, and a frightening array of witch doctors as defenders. How are we going to fare against Ghana?
Frightening away at witch doctors. All right. Well, we already know how we fared against them 4 and 8 years ago.
By the way, does anyone need another beer? I could use another beer.
Well, you do you, Connor. So, like most African sides, Ghana's defense is their weakness. Offensively, they're a talented bunch, but their biggest liability is defense. And as long as the United States can keep the pressure on Ghana, if they can possess the ball, outpossess Ghana, if they can keep Bradley with the ball as long as possible, as long as they can keep Bradley distributing and keep Bradley keeping that pressure on the defense, I think the United States will be fine against Ghana.
Jeff, what do you think about this? Ghana's got a lot of recognizable names. Essien, Montari, Asamoah, Prince Boateng, Gian. But these guys are 4 years older than they were before.
I think the U.S. will do well. These Ghana players are very good. But individually, they're talented, but as a group, they work pretty well together still. But the individual talent isn't what I'm worried about. Like in 2006 and 2010, what I'm worried about is that Ghanaian speed that always seems to get behind the U.S. defense. And as we saw in 2010, that happened twice. And if the U.S. in Jeff Cameron and Matt Besler is able to contain that speed, they'll be able to prevent them from scoring goals like they always do against the U.S. And I don't see the Ghanaian side scoring any like tiki-taka goals. I just see them scoring through balls or over the top balls, just using their speed. So if the U.S. is able to contain that, they'll fare well against Ghana.
They're a very direct team, aren't they, Ghana? They like to play fast, and it's not that they're playing long ball in an English sense. They're kind of playing quickly through their midfielders. They have good ball players here, like Essien and Montari Asamoah are good passers. Those are probably going to be the 3 center mids we see out there starting. And John is really good at finding space down the wings. Anytime Fabian Johnson's caught out of position forward, which I think Zuzi does a pretty good job covering, but if there's any slip up there, Gian is going to find that. Ayew is going to find that. Prince Boateng is going to be at the top of their midfield, and he's going to be a danger as well. I think the Team USA might need the double screen with Beckerman and Jones just to contain Kevin Prince Boateng. Like, he's a good player. This is going to be a tricky matchup, and there is the psychological advantage that Ghana has. But if you look at that defense, there's not a whole lot of names that you're going to recognize. Maybe Jonathan Mensah from 2010, but that's about it. This is a weak defense that Josie Altidore should be able to take advantage of. And the goalkeeping scenario is not the best either for Ghana.
Do you think that the fact that the United States lost to Ghana in 2010 and 2006 will actually be a positive, like a motivational sort of factor?
No.
And the fact that the United States wants to just get even, get back at Ghana, you don't think so?
I think after one loss, it's motivation, and after 2 losses, it's painful.
All right.
I feel like for Clint Dempsey, he's definitely thinking about it for sure. I mean, he's a captain of the USA team. He played in the 06 World Cup and the 2010 World Cup, so it's definitely on his mind. He's not going to go out of the World Cup losing to Ghana three straight times.
Clint Dempsey's one of those guys who he doesn't say die. He doesn't say die. You know what I mean? He's a fighter. He's a fighter till the very end.
He's from Texas.
He is from Texas. He's from the South.
Best case scenario against Ghana.
You win.
We
The
win.
best case scenario is we win. We finally feel satisfied that we beat Ghana. We win maybe 2-0. And we go into Portugal feeling very confident.
We need the confidence going to Portugal.
We definitely need the confidence going. Most importantly, we need the 3 points going to Portugal. But the confidence will come with those 3 points.
I say best case scenario, we get a 1-0 win. We shut out this great attack, which is very big for the defense, and we squeak through with a goal. Worst case scenario?
We lose and we get absolutely embarrassed. Probably somewhere like 2-0. We put up a dismal attack, and their attack exposes all our flaws in our defense. And Omar Gonzalez, Timmy Chandler, and Besler just look like pedestrians. That's
So you
worst
think
case
Omar
scenario.
Gonzalez will start?
Whoever's playing back there.
Jeff Cameron.
Jeff Cameron,
Cameron.
Omar Gonzalez, Chandler, Besler, Johnson.
Let's be real.
Okay.
Beasley.
DeMarcus Beasley.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I feel like worst case scenario is Ghana just runs our defense.
Okay. Take a step away from the U.S. real quick. Germany and Portugal are playing the same time as this Ghana game. What do we think about that? Is Germany unbeatable? Are they really unbeatable? Because we've seen them slip up before. They slipped up against Italy. They were outplayed by Spain in the 2010 World Cup. Is this German team as unbeatable as we're making them out to be?
In my opinion, yes. I actually think that Germany's going to win the entire tournament. I do think that they'll beat Portugal, but they have had slip-ups recently. They actually tied Cameroon not too long ago. I believe it was just last week. They did have a big slip-up in the semifinals in the Euros, but this is a very, very talented German squad. They're every single level. They have talent. I can't say the same about Portugal. Germany should win this game easily. I expect them to go through with 9 points. No question.
I feel like Germany will win this game against Portugal. They're focused. They're ready to go. And they know that they need to win the first game in order to just cruise throughout the rest of the group. And I also believe they'll win pretty easily just because Ronaldo won't be 100% for the first game.
That would be 99.9.
Earlier, I saw an article saying it's going to be 99.9.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ronaldo's promised 99.9.
He said Ronaldo said he'll be 99.9%.
In that case.
And
I feel like that'll be too much for Ronaldo.
And they've only got Lahm to guard him. There are no witch doctors on Germany's team.
It is Philip Lahm. He is the captain for a reason.
Yeah.
Ronaldo did on Real Madrid. He did run Bayern, and that's basically the German national team.
That is true. But the rest of Portugal is not quite Real Madrid.
No, they certainly are not. With the
Really
exception
just
of
Pepe.
Fabio Contrao.
By the way,
They'll
Pepe,
score a lot
one of my
more.
favorite World Cup players. Quick shout out. I love Pepe. He is crazy. What a great guy. So aggressive. How many cards will Pepe get this World Cup?
Ooh.
Does he lead the World Cup in cards?
I think Sergio Ramos might actually.
Sergio
Oh.
Ramos?
Sergio Ramos. gets a
Sergio
lot
Ramos
of
might lead
cards.
the World Cup in cards.
Pepe is the type of player that you would love to have on your team. Even though you hate him, you would like to have him on your team. He gets it done. He gets shit done in the
I'd
back.
hate to play against him. I think he'd be such a pain in the ass to play against, but I'd happily have him on my team.
Pepe's the type of player who's going to get 2 red cards this tournament and complain like it's the referee's fault. I could see Pepe getting two
red cards, but in the first and third game.
Is there another player in the tournament besides Pepe and Sergio Ramos who you could say I think
Balotelli.
they'll get 2 red cards?
Balotelli.
But Italy puts him in check sometimes.
Yeah.
They'll put him in check.
Balotelli, but not because of disciplinary reason, just because he's just a...
Pirlo won't take any of that.
I don't think Balotelli's going to do that in the World Cup. But we're not here to talk about Balotelli.
You know,
We're talking
Ethan, we still need to do the all combustible team.
about- Yes.
The all combustible.
We'll do
team.
that later.
Starting center backs Ramos and Pepe. Starting striker Balotelli. If only Zlatan were in the World Cup. Anyway, so I agree.
And
I think
Mourinho.
and Mourinho's the coach. I think that Germany will beat Portugal. I'm really not that sold on Portugal. I know that a lot of people feel differently.
I feel like I've also met a lot of people who don't think that Portugal's as good because a lot of people feel that Portugal is centered around one player and that player being the best player in the world. But I tend to disagree with that just because they have a lot of other strong players. Their defense is underrated. People aren't going to talk about Portugal's defense, but
Oh, the defense is great.
the defense is good. I feel like I don't hear that many people talk about Portugal's defense, but at the same time, I consider their defense to be pretty top class.
In real life, Portugal's a scrappy team. They have one really good attacker and they have a lot of good defenders.
Yes, Nani's he's not what he used to be, but he's a pretty solid player in my opinion.
Still Nani.
He's still Nani. Postiga is also a good player.
Yeah, Hugo Almeida. He's been scoring goals in the friendlies recently.
Connor,
yeah,
you seem to disagree with this.
I mean, I'm not sold on those guys. I think
I'm not sold on them to win the World
attack is
Cup, but I
Ronaldo
think they'll beat
attack.
the United States and Ghana.
Anyway, Germany wins this game. So, next round,
Or game 2.
game 2, USA and Portugal. Do we have what it takes to, first of all, stop Ronaldo?
I think we were talking about that earlier, and the consensus was no.
I think Fabian Johnson would contain him, but you can only contain him to a limit. So I think Ronaldo will score a goal against the U.S.
What I'll give the Fabian Johnson-Jeff Cameron combo that's going to be, for the most part of the game, marking Ronaldo because they're the two right-sided defenders, is they don't give up a lot physically to him. A lot of players will give up something. They'll give up speed, they'll give up strength, they'll give up size. Johnson gives up almost none of those. He's a little shorter than Ronaldo. Cameron's not going to give up strength or size to him. He's going to give up a little bit in speed. But the combination of those two guys is a lot better than what most teams can offer, even compared to Germany. They've got Lahm on him. Lahm's a world-class defender, as good as it gets. But if a cross comes in to the far post just once the entire game, Ronaldo's going to win that, and he might score a goal on that.
You know, Connor, I believe we talked about this before. One of Ronaldo's more underrated qualities is his ability to win balls in the air. He is very good in the air. He is tall. He is great with his head. And if he gets a clear header, he's going to score.
Undoubtedly. But Team USA is actually not terribly equipped to guard him, I think. Not that anybody is very well equipped to, but compared to other sides in the world, you could do worse than having Fabian Johnson and Jeff Cameron be your primary two with Jermaine Jones shielding. That's not too bad. They're going to really emphasize that. The rest of the way around the field, I don't feel that the U.S. is that undermanned against Portugal.
How do you think the U.S. attack's going to hold up against that Portugal defense?
Well, if there was anybody who could deal with a battering ram like Josie Altidore, it's a wall made out of granite.
I'm
like
interested
Pepe.
to see the physical play between Josie Altidore posting up at the center of defense and then Pepe just pushing him off, and dealing with Josie Altidore's size.
And then maybe getting a red card in the middle of all that.
We know Pepe doesn't do well with physical play, so
Pepe does not deal with physical play
Pepe's
at all.
bound to do something to Josie Altidore.
Now here's a thought. Aaron Johansson is a better look against Portugal than Josie Altidore.
You think so?
Josie Altidore's big advantage is his size and his strength. He doesn't have either of those against the Portugal center backs.
Okay.
That is true.
Johansson can at least draw defenders out because he's a little quicker, a little better with his feet. I don't see how Josie breaks through against those two, Pepe and Bruno Alves, who's a similar brutish type player. But
Dempsey could.
Dempsey could.
Dempsey definitely could.
Are we sold on Portugal's center midfield? Veloso, Coutinho.
I think Bradley can run that.
I think our midfield is just as good as theirs.
I think I'd rather have ours over there. Bradley's he's a European quality player, as far as I'm concerned. Even though he does play on Toronto, if he's on his A game, he can control the tempo of the game.
I would much rather have Michael Bradley over Mireles any day, or Coutinho. Michael Bradley, he's the field general, as they say. Gets the ball from the center backs, and he makes things happen from the back. And if it's not for him, the U.S. won't be as organized. They won't be scoring goals or creating goals like he does for the team. So it's an easy choice for me. I take Michael Bradley over any of the Portugal midfielders, other than the center midfielders.
Ethan, best case scenario for Team USA.
I mean, best case scenario is they play a very hard-fought game. Tim Howard has a great game. He's probably going to need to stop maybe a Ronaldo breakaway and another probably like 2 to 3 Ronaldo chances. USA squeaks out a 1-0 win. Probably because Dempsey scores. I'm going to say Dempsey scores. USA squeaks out a 1-0 win. Ronaldo is contained by Howard. He's going to get his chances. That's not the question. He will get chances. as will other players of Portugal, but Ronaldo's chances, of course, will be the most deadly.
Jeff, Team USA's worst case scenario.
They get blown out by Ronaldo, and the speed is too much for Fabian Johnson and Jeff Cameron. And Tim Howard doesn't come up with any saves. And if they lose to Portugal, I think their dreams of getting second in the group are done. So they need to beat Ghana and at least tie with Portugal. So, worst case scenario, they lose to Portugal, they're out of the World Cup, essentially.
Connor, what does the United States want going into this Germany game? How many points do they need, minimum?
Well, I have one more scenario I'm going to throw at you for the Portugal game.
All right.
And then I'm going to answer that question. So, something that I see, and you might see this as a really positive outlook, maybe a best case scenario type, but I see this as a realistic scenario type. There's a good chance that Team USA's center midfield can prevent the service to Ronaldo. If they can contain the center mids, Ronaldo's going to get the ball in bad spots. And what you really don't want is to let him get the ball while he's running already in motion at the right back.
You definitely don't want him to get the ball while he's already in motion. You give Ronaldo time and space, he's dangerous.
If you can make sure Ronaldo gets the ball, and there are already 6 or 7 guys behind the ball, he's suddenly still the most dangerous player in the world in that scenario. But that's not a very threatening scenario for the most part. What are the chances he's going to score a goal in that? Better than anyone else in the world. Not that great in the overall context of a game.
So in order for that to happen, I think that Jermaine Jones as well as Kyle Beckerman will need to play an important role.
Very important role.
Very important role in clogging up the midfield, making sure that Ronaldo doesn't get any odd man rushes, making sure that when he does get the ball, like you said, there are 6 or 7 guys between him and the goal. There's definitely going to be the United States holding mids are going to need to play a big game. Keep in mind that Ronaldo can score from deep. He doesn't need to have a great scoring chance for him to score. He can shoot from 25, 30 yards out, and it can still be a legitimate goal-scoring opportunity. So just because he might not have what we would call a good chance doesn't mean he's not going to have doesn't mean he's not going to score.
Right. And what we're going to really need to see is Jermaine Jones not only cutting off the supply, but also destroying the demand as well. He needs to come over and provide double teams, screen the center backs, and make sure that area on top of the box is protected from Ronaldo. I could see, very realistically, in my opinion, a 0-0 draw.
Really?
Interesting. I don't see the U.S. scoring, but if they put in their top defensive performance or 95% of their best defensive performance, I could see them holding Portugal scoreless.
Okay. One thing you really got to watch out, though, even if the United States is holding Portugal, I guess, scoreless, their defensive mids are playing phenomenal. Free kicks, set pieces, that could really hurt them. They give it one lousy foul, Ronaldo can score.
That's true.
Even if they're not getting any chances, a free kick can really change the game.
So does Germany beat Ghana?
Germany beats Ghana. It's going to be closer. It's going to be close, but Germany beats Ghana. Probably 1-0.
And what was that question you had for me about U.S. and Germany?
How many points? What does the U.S. look for going into the Germany game? Do they what is it? 3 points, 4 points?
Just one.
Just one?
No, sorry. They just need one. I think in my scenario...
They just need 1 point.
No. I think they've got 4 points right now.
Going into Germany. Do you think they're going to get 4 points, or you want them to get 4 points? Or they need 4 points?
They need 4 points.
They need 4 points.
I don't think it's unrealistic to say they can get 4 points. And
I don't think it's unrealistic.
Ultimately, my personal bias is definitely clouding my perspective of this group. And that goes for Ghana as well. I think Ghana is a strong team, but a lot of that is personal bias because I've seen them beat Team USA twice. Team USA can come into this with 4 points.
I don't think that you saying that Ghana is a good team is personal bias. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Ghana should have been in the semifinals.
I hold them higher than most. They should have been in the semifinals, but I hold them as a team that could advance out of this group.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Any one of these 4 teams could.
Except Germany can't not make it.
Yeah.
Now, that would be the shock of the tournament.
That would be the shock of the tournament. Oh, good. There would be hell to pay in Germany if that happened.
Oof.
Oh, my gosh.
Anyway.
Let's not even talk about that.
Yeah. Hell in Germany is just not a good place to go to in conversation, is it?
No, it's not. All right.
Team USA coming into this 4 points, Ghana 0, Portugal 3. Portugal 3. Portugal 1. Yeah, Portugal won in this. Yeah.
They would have.
In my scenario, Germany 6, US 4, Portugal 1, Ghana 0.
So it would be up. Portugal would need to beat Ghana,
And the U.S.
And
would
have a
lose,
great goal difference.
And then Ghana. Okay.
and so I would think that Portugal would beat Ghana.
So it really depends how badly the U.S. loses to Germany and how badly how badly Portugal loses to Germany.
So it'd be based second place
Or
or
how-
determined on goal differential.
Well, we know Portugal has a greater prospect for goals than Team USA.
Oh yeah. So
Ghana
that
would have
definitely
to
doesn't-
pull out a draw here.
So Ghana ends up with a point, Portugal with 2 points, the U.S. with 4.
Portugal is never going to lose on goal differential to Team USA.
Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. USA's greatest strength, compared to Portugal, is their midfield. Jeff, you agree?
Yes, I feel like if Michael Bradley performs well in the group stage, they'll be fine and they'll get second place and qualify. And because when he plays well, the team plays well, and when he doesn't perform, they look out of sync. They look disconnected from the defense to the forwards because he connects everything.
Absolutely. And, I mean, it's not even a question that Portugal's forwards are better than the United States forwards. Portugal's defense is also better than the U.S.'s defense. The U.S. has the edge in goalkeeping and midfield.
So
Agreed.
if the U.S. is able to control that midfield and Tim Howard is able to make some crazy saves on Ronaldo and that Portugal attack, the U.S. will squeak out a 1-0 victory, I believe.
I think that's true. And Tim Howard, he is one of my absolute favorite players. I'm a big Tim Howard fan, especially Confederations Cup 2009. If you haven't seen it in a while, go back, look up some YouTube highlights. Confederations Cup 2009, especially that game against Spain. Tim Howard was absolutely phenomenal. Gosh, I think I might do that after we're done with this. Some Confederations Cup 09 highlights. Tim Howard was spectacular.
Top 10 in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Said.
I 100%
10.
agree with that. Maybe even better than top 10. Phenomenal goalkeeper, and he's going to need to play great against Portugal and against Ghana if the U.S. wants to come out.
Tim Howard always comes out big. I remember in 2010, he had a breakaway save on Hensky
On what team?
on England.
Heskey?
Heskey.
Oh, I do remember that,
Dude,
yes.
but that's Heskey. I could have made a breakaway save on
I
Heskey.
mean, Howard didn't even bobble the ball. He caught it straight up in his stomach.
remember
Okay, but Heskey probably shot it like 5 miles an hour.
All right, so
It's a World Cup.
all right, enough with Heskey. Enough with Heskey.
Have you ever watched the YouTube video Messi versus Heskey? And if you haven't, please go watch it. It's one of the better videos comparing two all-time greats. I'm sorry, Jeff. You're totally right. Howard balls out in big games. He made a big save on Heskey. I'm just teasing because Heskey blows.
All right, so the U.S.'s strength against Portugal are in the goalkeeping and midfield. How about against Ghana? Where does the U.S. have their strength against Ghana?
Our attack versus their defense.
I would
Okay.
say the discipline of the U.S. team versus the speed of Ghana. That's going to be the two factors.
Two determining factors. All right.
How untouchable is Germany?
Germany's very untouchable.
Are we sure they're untouchable?
I'm sure they're untouchable.
So in the Euro 2012, they weren't physically able to keep up with
Italy,
Mario.
With Mario. Mario had a great game.
And then they couldn't break down Italy once Balotelli scored those 2 goals.
Are you going to try to compare Josie Aldo to Mario Balotelli?
No. I'm not.
Okay.
But Germany is not that... Ah, man. I really don't want to say this. Germany is not one of the maybe top 5 attacks in the World Cup.
You got to elaborate a little bit more on
I
this.
definitely believe they are.
I 100% believe they are. Connor, you make a statement that bold. That is a bold.
If
bold
anything,
statement.
they
You
have
gotta
the
back that
second
up.
best attack behind Argentina.
You got to back that up. Let's hear it.
Okay. Germany have great ball retention. They have good defenders. They have excellent all-around players. I don't see them blowing teams out of the water like they did in World Cup 2010. World Cup 2010, they played on the break. Nobody was sure what to expect from that team. If you remember right, Michael Ballack had just come off an injury. Their captain. He was their attacking midfielder. Nobody was sure what this new center mid was going to be able to do. That ended up being Ozil. Ozil came out with a bag of tricks, astounded everybody, and became a Real Madrid star right afterward.
He had a good World Cup. They also had,
though, is one of the most inconsistent players I've ever seen. He'll shine so well for a few games, and that's great for tournament style. But if he's off, he's the fulcrum of their attack.
But even if he is off, I feel that Germany is deep enough that they'll be able to replace him.
They have Mueller, they have Götze,
Schweinsteiger.
Podolski.
Podolski, though, like, is that really who you're relying on? A guy who can't even start for Arsenal?
He performs better in Germany than he does for any club team. That's how he's always been.
Klose, you gotta hope he scores 2 goals this World Cup, and he's their starting striker.
And I don't blame him for being a starting striker.
I think that
He's
Germany
about to break the all-time World Cup goal scoring record.
Germany could pull a Spain 2012 and really not start like a natural 9 just because they're so. Their midfielders are so good. You also forgot Sami Khedira, even though he's not my favorite player.
Yeah, but he's not that great going forward.
He's not that great going forward, but he's also
said,
just another valuable midfielder asset that they have.
And by attacking,
if Ozil flames out, which I don't think he will.
When I said they're not one of the top 5 attacks, all I mean is that in terms of goal threat. There are teams that are more threatening at goal than Germany in the World Cup.
There are. Like Argentina is the first one that comes to mind.
Obviously.
Maybe even Brazil.
Uruguay is definitely more threatening on goal with Suarez and Cavani and Forlan off the bench. You'd have to give me some time to think. The Netherlands is a huge goal threat.
The Netherlands are, but I feel like the
they're
Netherlands
weak in other places.
The Netherlands midfield isn't as strong.
But I'm not saying they're midfield. I'm just saying they're goal threat.
Pure goal threat. All right,
just pure goal threat.
Okay.
I'd say Balotelli, if he's on for Italy, is a better goal threat than anything Germany has to offer.
Oh, I 100% agree. But there's more than just a goal threat. Germany's a very complete team. I think Germany
they are.
Team.
They're extremely complete team.
Very solid.
They have the best goalie in the world in Neuer.
But what if they go down 1-0 to somebody?
They have the firepower. That's not an issue.
They have the firepower. I agree.
I don't see them as having the same firepower. I think even Portugal with Ronaldo might have more firepower than they do.
Portugal up top, yes, but in the midfield, Germany will set the tone of a game.
Germany's not going to chase a lot of games, I think, because they're going to
Germany
score
will not chase
teams.
a lot of games. They're not going to be down. I wouldn't be surprised if Germany's never down in a game until the semifinals.
But they're not the best team at chasing a game, I don't think. And they
might not need to. I mean, look at Spain in 2010. I don't think they were ever behind, except for against Switzerland in that one weird game.
Yeah, and Germany got behind against Spain and couldn't do anything. And here's the problem with not having Royce. Royce was their fast attacking direct guy. He was one of their top. He was going to be their striker if they ever went down. He was one of the guys who could break through a defense and score.
I think Götze could play striker if he needed to.
I think they might
ideally
put him there.
No. Ideally, you want him to center attack in mid, but he could play striker if they needed to. I think he'd be a striker.
I don't think it'll affect Germany in this round necessarily, but that's just something I wanted.
All right.
To talk about with Germany because they're still going to win this group.
No doubt.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be as surprised as I thought I would be. There was a point where I thought Germany was getting 9 points for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if they drew at some point in this group.
Yeah, that wouldn't be the most surprising thing. I definitely think they will get 9, but having 7 wouldn't be crazy.
Because we're talking about them like they're head and shoulders above the rest of the teams.
And these are 3
in the group.
Good teams. 3 very good teams.
They might just be head above the other teams.
I don't know.
Being head above is not that bad. Head is never bad.
All right.
All right, so how does this finish? Germany, I think we're in agreement, wins.
I got to give it to Portugal. I mean, of course it's a group of death, so 2 good teams are dying here. It could be the United States moving on. It could be Ghana. I honestly hope it's the United States. This would be a huge, huge morale booster for the United States to make it out of the group of death. But to be honest, I don't think it's going to happen. Germany first, Portugal second.
I have Germany winning the group with 9 points, and then the U.S. coming in second with 4 points, and Germany and Ghana both with
Portugal and Ghana.
Portugal, Ghana. I have Portugal with 2 points, and Ghana with 1.
So you're writing out my scenario there?
Yes.
Cool.
And then Ronaldo is still going to live in the shadow of Messi. And he's going to cry. He's going to cry even harder than the World Cup. And he's going to cry. At least he'll have his hot girlfriend to go to, at least.
Yeah, that's true. You can cry all over her. Use her hair as a mop. I'm with Jeff. I'm going to go with my scenario. My head says Ghana finishes second, but my heart says the U.S. I don't trust Portugal. They're more talented than both of those teams, but I can't shake the feeling that I don't think they're going to do as well as they should. I think they're too predictable going forward. So, same as Jeff. 9-4, 2-1. Germany moves on in first place. Team USA survives and plays against #NS. And
USA makes the quarterfinals.
All right. Most important player in this group. Connor, who you got? I'll let you think about that for a little bit.
no,
it's
it's got to be Michael Bradley.
got me Michael Bradley.
That was my choice also.
Oh, well, fuck you, Jeff.
It's an easy one.
All right, Connor. Why Michael Bradley? I think we've talked about this a lot, but elaborate a little bit more.
Michael Bradley, to me, has to outshine the best players on the other teams. And I think he can do it, but it's easier for a player in a center midfield position than players in other positions to have a big impact because you see the ball more. But he needs to outshine Ronaldo against Portugal. He needs to outshine Essien or Gian or Kevin Prince Boateng for Ghana. He needs to be the dominant force in these games in order for Team USA to have any shot. He's got to control it on both sides, be a productive part of the defense, create chances offensively, maybe even score a goal. To me, it's got to be Michael Bradley.
I'm actually going to go with Tim Howard. I'm a goalie. I'm a bit biased towards my goalies. Tim Howard's one of my absolute favorite players. Connor and Jeff, I 100% agree that Michael Bradley's important. But with these attacking presences, especially with Portugal, especially with Germany and Ghana, but of course the most with Portugal, the United States defense is going to need to be in tip-top shape, and that always starts with the goalkeeper. Tim Howard's going to need a great tournament if the United States want to advance.
I think the most important player is Ronaldo. As basic as that may sound, he's the captain. He's their best player, and if they want any chance of advancing, he's going to need to score. I think 3 to 4 goals in group stage, because if he doesn't score, Portugal won't score, and if he's not creating havoc for the defenses, the Portugal attack is going to look. It's going to look slow. It's going to look sloppy, because he's a driving force, and he's at the peak of his career. I think he's 29. He's coming off the Ballon d'Or winner. He won that, so he's got a lot to prove.
And he's without a doubt the most talented player in this group too.
He is.
No question about that.
If he's making it happen, there's not anybody in the world who can stop him. Not even Gandhi.
Not even Fabian Johnson.
And most importantly, let's move on and see the final 8 teams in Connor's order of ideal World Cup winners. And actually, it's just the last 7 teams. So let's start out with number 7. I would love to see Uruguay win the World Cup.
Oh, here we go.
Let's start with the most important reason. Edison Cavani
Oh.
is one of my favorite players in the world. It started out as a simple FIFA love. But as I began to watch him on Napoli, his aggression, his hard work, and his unbelievable goal scoring, I was blown away by how good this guy is. And a lot of English fans soured on him after the Chelsea games because he missed a couple of chances. But you know what? An average player wouldn't have crafted those chances. He finds space like few others can, and he finishes almost all the time. He's good in the air, he's good with his feet, he's fast, strong. He's got the complete package. As for the rest of the team, I mean, who didn't love Diego Forlan in last World Cup? Long rippers. He was shooting from as far out as his hair stretched. That long golden locks.
Beautiful.
Ethan thought he was hot, it sounds like.
Low key.
Uruguay's a great team to play on as FIFA. I'm not a huge Suarez fan, which makes me surprised at myself for having them so high. But I've got some love for Uruguay. I loved the fact that they were a dark horse at the last World Cup, somebody that no one expected to go through, and they did so well. So Uruguay, number 7. And number 6.
1950 final.
Number 6. Oh, Ethan brought up a good point to me. My number one overall scenario to happen at the World Cup, besides my number one team winning, which is going to be a surprise, is a repeat of the 1950 final where Uruguay beats Brazil in the final in the Maracana after going down 1-0 and coming back, silencing the entire crowd, and winning just at the end of the game. That was basically the most unpredictable thing to ever happen in a World Cup final, and I'd love to see it happen again. Haha to you, Thierry, and shout out to Federico. Next, number 6, I've got the clay/wooden generation themselves, the Ivory Coast. I'm a big fan of the Ivory Coast. A lot of that probably has to do with Didier Drogba playing for Chelsea, being the head of the attack for many years. But I've also harbored a long love for Yaya Toure. If you remember right, Yaya Toure used to play for Barcelona back in 2008. He was the only player on the team I liked. I think he played for them for 2009 as well when they won the Champions League final. I loved Yaya Toure. He got transferred to Man City. I couldn't believe Barcelona gave him up just to hold on to Seydou Keita. Toure went and took the Premier League by storm. He was second in Player of the Year for the Premier League voting this year. And this is a team that's always kind of been screwed over by the draws. They've had these terrible groups of death every year. I'd like to see them shine through. I don't necessarily believe in them anymore, and that brings them down my list some. But I would love to see them do well. It'd be great. They're an entertaining bunch. They have Solomon Kalou as well, who put in great time at Chelsea. This is a team, and plus, gotta have the soft spot for the African teams. Love to see a team that's not from Europe or South America win a World Cup. I think for once. There's never been a winner outside South America or Europe, has there?
No, on South American soil for the World Cup, no European country has ever won the World Cup.
Only a South American team has ever won in South America. It's happened 4 times. Uruguay 1930, Uruguay won. Brazil 1950, Brazil won. Chile 1962, Brazil won. Argentina 1978, Argentina won.
That was embarrassing.
What?
You said Brazil 1950, Brazil won. Right after...
Brazil 1950, Uruguay won. My
there
mistake.
we go. There's never been a winner outside of South America and Europe. I'd love to see it be the Ivory Coast. I love that squad. At number 5, in my order, the team that... this is going to be a surprise, but the team that I think may win the World Cup, Argentina. I would love to see Messi cement himself as a great player. I am really, really awfully tired of hearing Pele talk about how Messi can never be great until he wins the World Cup. The dude is fucking great, okay? He scores so many goals. Nobody scores as many goals a season as Messi at the level he's playing at. He's absolutely absurd. I'm a big fan of Lavezzi. If you're seeing a pattern here, it's because I really enjoyed that old Napoli team. That was a great squad. Lavezzi's great. Aguero's cool. Higuain is cool. Di Maria is stunning to watch. And the fact that they don't really have much of a defense doesn't really bother me, even though I grew up as a defender. I like to see these kind of outgun the other team offenses go to work. But mostly, I really want to see my pick validated and Messi validated as a superb player. Thoughts?
I agree, Connor. I'm a big Messi fan, and I'm also in the same boat as you with the whole, Messi can't be the best player if he never wins the World Cup. So I want him to win the World Cup to just shut up those critics.
Well, it's too bad Messi, isn't so good that he can turn Argentina's defense into a great defense too,
Well, you can't do everything.
That's totally his fault, right?
Yeah, totally his fault. It's definitely not at all his fault.
Man, sometimes people, man. Anyway, number 4, Germany. Why Germany? Well, I have some German heritage going back a long ways. I've always rooted for Germany as a child. The team is great fun to watch. They keep the ball really well. They've got a cavalcade of excellent players all over the field, especially in the midfield. But mostly it comes down to the heritage thing and tradition. I've been rooting for Germany for years. It'd be cool to see them win the World Cup because they haven't won any before. Just kidding, they've won a lot. But they're a pretty good shot, especially they have a really good group at the moment. I could see them winning. They're one of the favorites. I've got them pretty high on my list. I love Schweinsteiger especially. The best name in all of professional soccer. Or can you disagree?
I'll agree.
Yeah, right? Like Schweinsteiger, it's such a cool name.
Schweinsteiger.
Once you figure out how to pronounce it, it rolls off the
Schweinsteiger.
tongue. Until then, it fucking sucks. But I was rooting for them in 2010. I was rooting for them in Euro 2012. They haven't done it. I'd love to see this generation get one while I'm watching. Next up, number 3. Got the host country, Brazil. Now, I'm going to be in Brazil for quite a while. There's a lot of upheaval right now happening in Brazil. A lot of rioting. A lot of problems. Something that can paper that over, at least momentarily, would be Brazil having a lot of success. If Neymar is out there being the man that everybody thinks he can be, it's going to be less troublesome that so many things are going wrong with Brazilian infrastructure. Not to mention the fan base that is most prevalent at the World Cup, the Brazilians, will be having an amazing time. That's always important. If you've ever been to a party where the host isn't having fun, it's probably not a very fun party. You want the host to be enjoying themselves. I want Brazil in the World Cup for as long as possible, at least while I'm there. Not to mention, they're playing at home. They're going for a record number of championships. They haven't won it for 12 years, which is like 100 years in Brazil. And they have a cool cast of players. And they have a guy named Hulk. Are you serious? What a great name. That's up there with Schweinsteiger. Let's get that team up there. Ethan?
Oh, I totally agree with that name thing. And yes, I do agree with you want the host team to stay in it as long as possible. Originally, meaning a few months ago, I wasn't really all that excited about Brazil. But the more I think about it, the more reading the articles about Brazil, watching videos about, the national team and all the whole pride. Brazil, they love their football in Brazil. And, as someone that's going to be in Brazil, I definitely want the locals to be very passionate about the World Cup, which I expect them to be. And if Brazil's an early exit, and by early I mean quarterfinals, there'll be a lot of angry people in Brazil, and it's really not something you want to see.
No, it's really not something you want to see. And the history does play a big factor in it. It's a very passionate soccer country. It's really known as the adopted home of soccer. If England is the traditional home of soccer, this is the adopted home. So that leads us to number 2, the New Spain. Belgium is definitely my number 2 overall outcome. Vindicate me for declaring them the New Spain. They're a superb squad, and now they're everybody's team, which makes it, I don't know, maybe a little less special for me. But my boy Hazard just took on number 10 at Chelsea. He's a superb player. They've got Lukaku, who's going to head in everything that's crossed his way, score goals from absolutely everywhere. Kevin Morales, who's going to make a name on an international scale. He's a good-ass player on Everton. If you've never seen him, be prepared to be blown away. You'll be like, oh shit, fucking Belgium has 2 Hazards out there. Oh wait, that's Morales actually, because he balls out as well. Fellaini needs redemption for his terrible season at Manchester United, and he's going to find it in the World Cup. Axel Witsel is going to put his name on the map. He's currently an unknown over in Russia. If you're in the know, you probably know him pretty well, but otherwise, maybe not. They have 2 dudes in their center midfield with fucking afros. How many other teams have 2 dudes with afros? Exactly none.
Dante, Marcelo.
Oh my goodness. Go away. Fuck off, Ethan. Okay, Brazil's the only other team.
David Luiz.
Okay, how often do you see white guys with afros?
Not too often.
Just David Luiz. He's the only other one. Anyway, Dembele, crazy dribbler, fucking absurd man. I love Company. He's, the epitome of what makes a defender great. He's essentially, he and Thiago Silva are the 2 most complete defensive players in the game. Courtois is going to show why Chelsea needs to just pick him up permanently. I love you, Czech. It's almost time to go. Even though you're not really that old. And Jan Vertonghen, surprise, I know who you are, and you are a good player. You hold it down at center back or left back. Essentially, Belgium's just going to work it around, play it out wide, whip it into Lukaku, goal, bring it down to Hazard, rip people up. Whoops, how did that ball end up just going through my legs and the ball in the back of the net? Whoops, I guess that's the Hazard of guarding Hazard. That sucks for me. Oh shit, cross comes up, Guess Fellaini is 6'7" with his afro, and guess what? His hair just scored the goal. Nice job. Tough guarding Belgium. This has been 2 minutes of ignorance by Connor about why Belgium is going to win. And number one, you've been listening to it for 35 minutes. Team USA. Come on, boys. Fuck Klinsmann. Come on, boys. And I think that's all that needs to be said. So, that's the end of the podcast. That's the end of our group stage preview. We keep promising we're going to talk about other stuff. We'll get there during our match analysis as we go forward. So, signing off. This is Connor.
Ethan, deuces.
And Jeffrey.
All right. Peace out. Biatches.